Go ahead, start.
Yeah, thank you very much again for a great summary of the French context, French case. Would you like to go first, because Mark prefers to participate through questions.
Okay, let me this one here. So someone watch this one. If ends, the better it finishes. Let me know.
Okay. So
let me tell you something. I am not a scholar on Ivory Tower. Though there are many scholars in Ivory Tower, we know each other. They know me. They respect me. But I am at the same time, I am a rebel on the street. Okay. The reason I'm rebel because I know what is going on the streets. And I know that those scholars in Ivory Tower, in their cubicle, fantastic people, nice people, like Ali, like Roberto, they're very nice guys. But they have little clue about really what is the cause in this terror. I'm saying it with challenge. And I see people, talking heads on TVs, they talk about terror as if they know. I see a lot of smoke screen. Either it is a cognitive dissonance, or it is hypnosis, blindness, or it is a deliberate thing in order, let this happening, we play our games. When I look at the factors, what causes this terror, most of the things counted here, it is in the bottom, in the footnote. First, let's start with the definition of terrorism. You're not angry with me, correct? You have all the things to go. Now, can someone, I want to ask you guys, ladies, what does terrorism mean? Since we're talking about terror, and you came here, you are interested, I think you know English, you look at the dictionary, or you hear these words for more than 10 years, correct? You have an idea about it. I want someone stand up and tell me what does terrorism mean. Okay. Come on. What's terrorism? Definition. Yes, gentlemen.
I think it is a politically, we cannot define it. It is moving definition. It depends if what's his name? No, the guy who helps the Afghani,
Hekmatar.
No. The American president, the actor, what's his name? Reagan, when he get in the Oval Office, and he invited all those guys from Afghanistan, because they are fighting the Russians, and call them heroes. And after the CIA get over there, and after it is changing definition, because after that they call them terrorists. Is that right?
Yeah.
You can go from hero to terrorist when the circumstances is changed. It is even now in the United Nations, people that cannot agree in one definition about terrorism.
Okay. To me, the issue is very simple. The causes is out there glaring, but we are blindfolded. First of all, we are not honest regarding our definition of terror. If terror killing civilians to reach a political gain, the biggest terrorist organization in the world is the United States, then perhaps Israel and Turkey, my home country, they will kind of competing for the top position. We forgot about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Mass murder we did. But there's a difference between us and them. When they kill these barbarians, like American Indians skin the head, correct? Yeah.
Scalp.
Yes, whatever it is. English is my fifth language, bear with me. And these barbarians, ISIS people, they chop the head, they show. We don't do those kind of things, we are civilized. What we do, we drop the bombs, well-nourished pilots, our heroes, drop it on a town, all in shock. In Iran, we see this, there were fireworks, like it's 4th of July fireworks in Baghdad. We watched it with fun. We are dropping democracy on those people. We are saving them from tyrant. But we didn't go what's happening down in the ground under our bombs. How many men, women, children died? How many of them lost their limbs? We didn't even count the dead there. We didn't care about their numbers. We cared only about our heroes who went there to kill them. According to some numbers, 1 million people killed. Is it a coincidence that ISIS comes from that? Zarqawi and others. Afghanistan, Russia, and killing murder, but civilized way of killing. Don't show. French people, when they killed in Algiers, that time they chopped the people's head, they put those heads on their stamps. But now we are smarter. We know that when you kill it, now you should kill it in a very nice way, hide it, and let your people know that you are only for humanity, human rights, and freedom, and you shower people around the people you want democracy. While you are the #1 supporter of the worst, one of the worst regime on earth, Saudi Arabia, Saudi kings, who are the cause of, as far as ideology, the Salafi ideology, that feeds the ISIS. But what are the contributing factors to this ISIS or Taliban? After United States killed many of those people, Afghanis, who cares about them? They are not humans. They are just a bunch of barbarians. And the United States killed them. Our drones. Do you think that if drones of other country trying to kind of found our militias here, bad guys in this country, and bombing here and there once a while, our weddings, we'd be happy about that? We'd live in peace? Taliban comes from that, invasion. Invasion of Iraq, what? ISIS. Invasion of Gaza, Palestinian land, we have Hamas or other things. You don't need to be a very smart scientist to know the cause and effect, the connection. We are all around the world, we are invading countries. Are they invading our countries? Are Muslims invaded? Did they invade our countries? No, we are invading their countries. We are killing them. And guess what? We are torturing them too. I was tortured in Turkish prisons, but those torturers, they were trained by the United States, this country which I love so much and I hate so much. I love so much because I am free now. In my country, I was not free. I could not criticize my government. Here, I have this one. As long as I have this voice, this is my land. But I think we are all fooled by military-industrial complex, which you were warned by a president his last day because he was scared. He says, I warn you, Eisenhower, against industrial military complex, which may become big power, that like perpetual machine creates enemies and kill them, invade countries, and create more enemies, and meanwhile, through that, let the bloody machine run. France, United States, Europe, United Kingdom, Israel, they are #1 on top making money from killing machine. They make profits from the conflict around the world, give both sides weapons. If there is no conflict, create a conflict. I'm not telling you stories. I'm not talking in big words that you don't understand. People like you are getting killed by your weapons. Iranian mullahs, how did they come to power? They are angry with us, people. And they end up with mullahs, unfortunately. But how they came to power? Go to cause and effect. In 1953, Iranian people kicked out our puppet dictator, Shah. And it was a very peaceful revolution. They had democratically elected Mossadegh's government. People were not on the streets wanting to kill people. There were no mullahs. Through CIA, I'm not saying something conspiracy theory, now it is declassified. We did a coup, military coup. We brought back Shah, we destroyed their democracy, and they end up with mullahs. But it is good business. It is good business to have conflict, a controlled conflict, for weapon sales, for scaring you and me, controlling us, taking away our privacies, and making big money at the same time. Here, the list of countries that torture through the United States, supported by Greece, #1, gets about military aid, $2 billion. Portugal, Spain, Turkey, Indonesia, they all torture. The 15 out of 19 hijackers, they were from Saudi Arabia. We support Saudi regime. It's farce. We end up hitting Saddam, a cruel guy, correct? Very bad guy. But we supported that guy while he was the most cruel. We used him against Iran. 1 million from one side, 1 million from another, 2 million people got killed. We didn't care. We gave him weapon to punish Iran for standing against us. When he killed my people, Kurdish people in Halabja, gassed them to death, Ramsel was shaking hand with Saddam Hussein. He was a good guy because he was working for the corporations, USA Incorporated. Forgive me, I am passionate because millions of people are dying because of our disinterest, our cowardice, or our deliberate silence of what is going on in our name. And then the moment he started becoming arrogant, it is another story. In fact, we staged it. When I say we, United States, staged his invasion of Kuwait. It was absolutely trick. I have evidences because Saddam Hussein, when pampered, supported by the United States against Iran and stuff, he was given the promise that you will get Kuwait back as a bonus for your service to the United States. Guess what? When he started mobilizing towards Kuwait 1 month before his invasion, the question came, because satellites get the picture, that he's mobilizing his soldiers toward Kuwait. The media asked the Kuwait American embassy in Kuwait, ambassador, what do you think Saddam is going to invade Kuwait? What he said? This guy was not going just to speak on his own. He's not telling a story. He's not talking individually. He said it is not America's business. It's up to this region. And when Saddam heard that publicly too, now he became sure what is giving him promise privately is now public, therefore really United States meant it. And it was a trick, it was a trap, because a strategy in the Middle East would change. He invaded, and United States as a hero, saving the Arab countries, entered, punished him, and kicked him out from Kuwait as a savior. And then military bases opened in Saudi Arabia, which led to Al-Qaida. At that time, the weapon industry just within a matter of days sold Saudi Arabia $3 billion in one sale, $3 billion worth of weapons, which their soldiers could not even use. What they did? They hired with obscene amount of money, salaries, American soldiers, military men, to operate those machines there. At the same time, they did advertisement for some new weapons. It's called smart missiles. It was absolutely a fair show, sales of weapon, selling money, getting deals regarding the oil, scaring the people over there. We are your saviors. A lot of done in Latin America, similar things. And I have this one. I know that I am the time constraint. I don't have track. I didn't really even prepare for this one because sometimes I over-prepare, it becomes a mess. Like first time I did a PowerPoint presentation at Princeton University, it was one of the worst ones because PowerPoint pulls me this way. I am a wild person. I want to go this way. We had struggled with the PowerPoint. I have this one. I am putting on internet, 19.org site. And also I want to make it a PowerPoint I will put on my YouTube channel. Edip Yuksel is my channel. And this one, the terrible terrorist test. And I would like everyone to take this test. The terrible terrorist test. And now, do I have any minute left?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. Now, now, here it is the factors. I want to go very fast, the headlines about what causes these things. These organization terror, organized terror. Okay, here. Okay, where is it? Here. Now, therefore, there are two kinds of terrorism. One, little gang terrorism, I call ISIS, Taliban, Boko Haram. They are little gang terrorism. They could be easily eradicated by these powers. Taking Taliban, or not Taliban, it was Al-Qaida. Taking it out, it was a very easy job for the United States. United States did not need to go invade Afghanistan or go attack Iraq. It was a special operation issue. There are just few hundreds, maximum few thousand people. Go find them, kill them, or arrest them. You don't need to go destroy the whole country. Turn more enemies, let them recruit more. Correct? If you have something here, something, let's say infection, you don't go just get a huge hammer and hit whole things, correct? Or the whole body surgery? No. It was a special issue, local, and very marginal. Now, in New York, I went to Manhattan, and then I went to the place where is the ground zero. I challenge Americans. Why I challenge? I suffered from terrorism. My brother was killed by Turkish terrorists, by racist terrorists. My closest friend was killed by Al-Qaida. The closest friend, Rashid Khalifa. My brother, Edip Yuksel. And I am myself, I receive serious threats from ISIS and others because my message converts many people. Just I missed some of the interview with them. Just recently, one kid, 19-year-old, was going to join ISIS in Azerbaijan. You saw the video I put. And the mother was very worried. And this kid watches one of my videos or two videos, and then he entirely changed. He was going to join ISIS. Or a local leader of Al-Qaida with about 10, 20 of his comrades absolutely leaves, and they put their life at risk because of this message I'm giving. My message, the theological argument is so powerful. When I make the argument on Turkish TV, live TV, millions of people watch, the head of religious affairs escaped from studio twice. Or the biggest mosque in New York, the imam of that mosque was Shamsi Ali, starting with smile face, window dressing, these atrocities in the name of God in Islam, enslaving women or killing murtad or apostate, when I confronted or stoning people to death, or many other things. And then he couldn't, and he didn't have the courage to say, yes, these are wrong, this cannot, because it is in his book. He had to escape from his own mosque. It is on video, all these things. But, though I am the most critic of this religious violence and intolerance, at the same time, I see in the Western world, we are doing exactly what they do, even worse than them, but we are good in hiding. Therefore, I said this, I'm finishing with this one. I said, if Muslims are terrorists, Christians are terrorists 666 times. I took $100, I had several $100 in my pocket, ready. I challenge you, any of you, come here with two random people, discuss with me 3 minutes. If those two people find you right in this argument, you will get $100. If you lose the argument, I have here a translation of the Quran. It is on video too, this is things. Quran, a reformist translation. You will get one translation of the Quran. Or, if you are scared of touching that book, I have potato chips and soda for you too. You have nothing to lose. Go watch it, running like zebras. I had this, and I challenged the whole crowd coming out of the metro. And they stopped, they're watching. $100, your God, here it is. Get it, it's very easy, 3 minutes. Only 2 people out of you will find you right in 3 minutes. Guess what? Those people, they were nice people. They didn't lynch me. They didn't come to beat me. Like in my own country, they would come perhaps beat me. They would lynch me. They were nice people. They, in fact, many of them came, they were interested in the Quran. I was wrong in my depiction of them that they worshiped this money. I really misjudged them. None of them were interested with money at that time. Of course, among them, there are money worshippers. But when I put the issue so bluntly, I challenged their heart and mind. Those people, at least, they say there's something he's telling the truth. Accept the truth so that the truth will set you free. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edip, one more time. And of course, we don't. Mark prefers to participate through questions, okay? But I would like to mention a couple of points. One from Roberto's speech. He said that Islam is the only thing on the market of radical rebellion. It's an amazing point, you know. We can discuss this later on. You see, in Europe, people are unhappy. So many people are unhappy, right? People are unhappy not necessarily because of religion. Instead, they are trying to find, they are seeking justice, you know. And this makes many people to convert into what gonna help them to look for justice, okay? So when the conditions gonna be right for revolution, like French Revolution, October Revolution, I don't know. But you see, there's a danger of that. The second point was that, you see, there's not a clear-cut definition of terrorism. Why? Because those who are engaging with terrorist activities, they define terrorism according to their own needs and beliefs and interests, right? This is another point. And finally, we just discussed what Islam is, right? Is it really a religion of terror? If it is, who is using that as a means of terror? It's non-state actors. But just Edip discussed that state actors use terrorism even more than non-state actors, right? Let's discuss. Would you like to go the second round, or you wanna just receive questions?
Mark did not.
Mark cannot participate through questions. He said. He prefers, yeah. He's gonna receive questions and participate like that.
I would have a few. I forgot the factors that I put that very briefly. If you don't mind, right on the board. Would you mind?
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. May I have that marker? Thank you. Here is what contributes to gang terrorism and state terrorism, or our lack of desire to stand for peace. One is culture of violence. It is promoted by movie industry, the gaming, I say game, video game industry. It is no coincidence. Years ago, when these video games that kids playing, and they pretend to be heroes, soldiers, and killing people, sometimes massacring people on the street, civilians, and enjoying that in your home, beautiful kid. Killing someone was made an entertainment. How in the world you become angry with ISIS while in your home you let your beautiful kid push the button, enjoy it? This is whether imagination, whether real, imagination of doing something bad by itself is bad. And this because make you insensitive towards other people's plight, about the violence. When our country go to war to another country, we all somehow we say our government is right 100%. And the other country the same way. They could be even Christian too. We say God is on our side. They say God is on our side. And we humans, we are so alike. But we divided ourselves through artificial borders, through symbols that we make up, flags and stuff. And then we let our leaders to fool us, to dupe us for what? There are three things for wars and whatever terror. Three reasons. One is fear. Fear. This could be a real fear or made up, artificial fear. Usually it is made up by warmongers, those who have interest in wars, in conflicts. Second, glory. Third, interest. Usually, the interest is not the interest of people. It is the interest of the few. Like in this case, in this time, oil companies and weapon manufacturers and subsidiary industries that millions of people are making money living on it, and some people making billions of dollars out of that. And therefore, this culture of violence, that time I said, these movies most likely is indirectly supported by Pentagon, I said. That time they said you are too conspiracy, and later it was shown that really Pentagon was supporting some of these companies who are making these videos, because those kids, some of those kids, will be very interested to push ring buttons to kill others. If they don't do well in schools, here they are going to be hired. Does make sense? 3, 2, religion and dogmatic ideologies. Not in logical order, because I put it just after midnight. Religion and dogmatic ideologies. Now, these are in fact, it is afterwards they come into play. Usually they are not the real reason for the wars or terror. They are later. For example, the study of a German professor recently, it was very interesting, on ISIS members, found out that most of them are not religious really. They become religious while they are there, more indoctrinated to maintain them. But initially most of them are from prison and stuff, or they are just drug users and stuff, have nothing to do with religion. There are other causes. And the other thing is consumerism, capitalism. I know it is a good word in this country. Leprosy in this country is socialism. If you say I'm socialist, oh, stay away. Imperialism. Well, when I say socialism, of course, in fact, I am a social democrat. I do believe it is outrageous. The things that Sanders says now, I say he's copying me. I have been saying this 30 years. Absolutely. Doesn't know him. Edip, this guy is you. He's talking the same thing. When I was in law school, when I finished law, my final paper was about the campaign finance reform issues. When I studied, my gosh, I said, I thought the biggest issue is drugs or teenage pregnancy or this and that. No, the biggest issue is democratic process. When it is distorted, you are doomed. Yeah. Because they have the media too. Media hypnotizes people. They know how to sell you things. You see, we all wear similar stuff. We walk the same way. We all eat chips. We all these things. We are manipulated. There are some of the things that is good. We need to live in harmony. But when we turn to zombies, all yell for our demise against ourselves, there is a problem there. And military-industrial complex. This is consumerism, because capitalism, there is a lot of greed. We waste a lot of resources. When I look at McDonald's, when I see people eat in buffets, especially bothersome. Because of that, I don't go to buffets, because people get food, leave half of the food on the table. It bothers me. I see it unconscionable. That person very immoral, very, very immoral, the way says, great, make America great, he's a very, very terrible guy. He is a terrible guy. Because there are many people would like to have a quarter of that food in the world. And because of this, the resources of the world will go in many ways, through invasions or through dictators. We install dictators covertly or overtly, and we suck the resources of those countries. They starve to death. And we spend, meanwhile, about a quarter of our budget to military. A fraction of that quarter could feed everyone in the world. Military-industrial complex. This is huge. I don't want to bother you with numbers. You can go see the numbers. And another thing, dictatorship and corrupt governments. And the other thing, Israel, I will put here, for special consideration. I have no animosity or any problem with Jewish people. I love them, and I think they are chosen people by God. They may not like it. Honestly, I do believe that. Because they passed through so many trials and tribulations in life. Through evolution, they got the best. The best minds there, but the worst minds there too. And in the Bible says, in their Old Testament, the prophets, the biggest criticism there and the biggest exaltation. Moses is my hero. Noam Chomsky is my friend. Or what's called Norman Finkelstein.
Sandlin.
Excuse me? Anyway, Israel, the reason says, this is the one that feeds most people in the Middle East against the United States and Western world. The reason because of the length of this, and the depth of the atrocities, and the asymmetry between the power. Once biggest military power, those people, they do not have even tanks or even things, and they have been massacred, and also at the same time, wound on top of the wood, salt, they are considered as a terrorist. I see the picture of tank, finish it. Picture of tank, Israeli soldier there, a Palestinian kid in front of it, is about 12 years old, has rock in his hand. We are conditioned in a way that we see that kid as a terrorist. This soldier, poor soldier, is defending its poor country, Israel. And this maybe in the mix, there are many. Therefore, if you want to live in a peaceful world, in Europe, I said, in Germany, I said, when I talk in Istanbul, in other countries, in Kazakhstan, I am most critical of them. They hear me criticize them. You cannot blame the West because you have so much trouble. You kill yourself, each other. But in West, when I'm in West, I talk to us. We have to change ourselves too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have got some questions before asking some of them. I'll just thank you very much. They are great issues, great topics, great points that you should spend some time to think of them. This consumerism, you see, I know a student here at UNCG who wrote a paper on consumerism, and she makes a short presentation, says, we human beings, we just kill our mother nature because we need a couple of t-shirts, but we have at least 10 at home. And the professor thinks a little bit, says, I'm going to make a confession that I have 65 of them at home. It's not simple, right? It's a long process, really. We just use new stuff without really need, right? So the first question I'm going to direct to Mark Sandlin. It says, what's your perspective on so-called Islamic terrorism? Would you like to answer this question, Mark?
My perspective on Islamic terrorism? Yeah. I mean, it gets complicated because we're talking about the difference between the state and the religion that's so closely associated with it. But I mean, it's very clear that the way that it's being handled there is taking one group of people who are dominating over it against another set of people. So once again, we get to the problem of how do you define terrorism. But I'd say it's very clear that there's someone who's using power over and against someone else who has less power. And in my book, that's terrorism.
Thank you very much. The second question is to you, Edip. It says you said you were tortured by Turkish officials trained by us or by the US. Anyway, also could you briefly bring attention to current Turkish-Kurdish violence?
Okay. Very briefly. The Turkish military is trained by NATO. In fact, there are Turkish, for example, pilots come to Tucson for training. And the tortures also, it is taught by them, to them through this training too. And also the military coup in Turkey in 1980, it was done by the encouragement of the United States. And United Ambassador, in fact, it is quoted in the press that says our boys made the revolution, the military coup. And, of course, I'm not blaming American people. I am an American. My kids are born here. But I think that I'm responsible an individual. Wherever I am, in Turkey, I was the same. When I see atrocities committed or injustice to anyone, I should stand up against that. And therefore, the torture issues, all we know that unfortunately in Al-Gharib, in Iraq, a lot of torture. And the Kurdish people in Turkey, there's right now major conflict. Turkish government has been a racist government, a fascist government. Imagine the Kurdish population, about 20 million right now, about 15–20% of the population. Once, not too long ago, about 25 years ago, 30 years ago, their language was banned. They couldn't even talk their language. Many of them were killed because of writing that language, talking, and their name was not allowed, Kurdish names, to give their children. The name of the towns, basically they could not even celebrate their own cultural holidays. And many of them were killed, some of them tortured, and later some of them fed up with this oppression. The youth, they established PKK, we call it terrorists. Hello, this government killed them, tortured them, basically deprived them from their basic human rights, and they rebel against that, they rebels, because they are not government, they are terrorists, and this one. Of course, I don't condone any killing of any, I condemn the terrorist organization that's called terrorist PKK. I have no affiliation, no sympathy. But if I want to condemn them, I should condemn 100 times the Turkish government because it is the effect of that cause. The oppression, the fascism of the Turkish government. And now at this time there is a major problem in the east side of Turkey. It has been several months with tanks and bombs. They are destroying homes. So far about 200 civilians they killed. And there is conflict there in Syria, we know the conflict. Kurdish, because I am a Kurd, I am not supporting Kurds. I'm not an Arab supporting Palestinians. Or I am not a Turkmen supporting Turkmen's right. I'm a human being. I think all humans should have the right to govern themselves. And Kurdish people, if they want a certain kind of like federal state here, they should have that right. The Turkish government wants to have one state with no local powers like in the United States. I think the solution over there should be like federal system here, which works fantastically here in Europe. And that's it.
Thank you very much. We are short of time. Would you like to go your question and you're trying to read this?
Sorry.
Yeah.
The question is very simple. Yes. I'm asking, should the French enjoy at the expense of Libyans? Because the French overthrew Gaddafi.
Should they enjoy what?
Should the French enjoy, live a good life at the expense of Libyans by overthrowing Gaddafi?
That's the question of every day, right? For every colonial power, post-colonial power, neo-colonial power, thus ultimately, you know, I would certainly not advocate enjoyment being taken at the expense of the dissolution of a country, certainly in the killing of thousands and the generation, cultivation of all kinds of chaos in terms of social structure and terrorism of the sort we're talking about today, for sure. So, but I think the question you're asking specifically about France, of course, and their culpability in that process is undeniable, okay? Should any society, however, that engages in that sort of exploitation for their own enjoyment of the sort that Edip was outlining so well before, should any society take any pleasure in that? I would certainly agree no. Should we have a conscience about it? Absolutely. Should we try to address those behaviors in the future and find a more equitable, culturally understanding way to go about that? Absolutely. And that's something we talk about actually in the IGS program a lot, which is intercultural competence. Is an idea that many of you probably have been working on over time, to understand what the world means to other people, to understand it through their eyes. So is that a direction that France is taking? I think in the same way we see around the world with respect to the global north and especially the developed west, there tends to be that knee-jerk resistance to want to engage in that sort of transparent understanding of other cultures or opening up to the listening of other cultures. And that's what I think we're seeing here. We're seeing that indeed by the changes in the Constitution of France right now, again, in response to trying to resolve an issue which is ultimately systemic. We talked about the military-industrial complex. That's all that systemic, substructure of what makes all of this possible. The values of society you mentioned, their consumerism, capitalism, imperialism. We talk about that in IGS 400 as market globalism, as that ideological position that really drives so much of what the world is about these days, for better or worse. And then we have contrary ideological movements such as jihadist globalism we've talked about, likewise in that course, and social justice globalism and so forth. So there's a lot that's going on here. Where do I stand in all of that? Social justice. Where do I think France should go with that? Hopefully social justice as well. The one thing I can say, maybe on the sort of positive side, maybe way overly optimistically, is that with, and I go to Edip's position and sympathy in that, democratic socialism. We have socialist regime currently in Paris, although Manuel Valls is more on the right end of the spectrum of that kind of socialist regime these days, and tends to be wanting to take almost more of a Front National approach to things in some cases. There is the best opportunity, I think, for opening up to that kind of dialogue, maybe, that would get us toward understanding each other and not indeed exploiting others for our own enjoyment. But yeah, I think that, with the media these days, the exposure, the transparency that the new technologies allow for us to access, hopefully there'll be greater understanding. Of course, the other side of that is what those same technologies allow dissident groups to be able to do to continue to foment the kinds of terrorism which eludes us as a definition here to some extent, right? And the one thing I wanted to add maybe to Edip's point here is something we all know, right? One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. So, I mean, again, we have to be understanding and see the world as holistically as possible, and then whenever possible, through the lens of others. So I don't know if that's an answer to the question.
We have.
I understand.
How many minutes we have?
Give
time for people.
Yeah, we have 15 minutes left, but I have many questions here, so we are running out of time. So please just give very brief answers to the questions. One of the questions is, are markets human? Reference have been made to market metaphors, but are markets ever human or humanistic? Does anybody want to answer to this question? Just maybe very briefly. Philosophical, yeah, very good question. It comes probably from one of the professors here, right? No?
I'm passing this question for a better question. Better in terms of that, I understand. I know.
There's a nice question, but it's about solution. I'm going to ask, this is the last probably. Let me ask a question. It says, is 19 only apply to the 19th character of the Arabic alphabet?
No. And Who asked this question? Who is that curious? Find him. The camera, come on. Very good. Okay. Gentlemen, I just give you in 1 minute, cut me in 1 minute, just examples of 19. The first statement of the Quran is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Is 19 letters. The first word of it is Bismi. Ism means name. Is mentioned in the Quran 19 times. The second word, Allah, means God, is mentioned 2,698 times. 19 times 142. The third word is Rahman, means gracious, is mentioned 57 times. 3 times 19. The fourth one, guess what? It would be also multiple of 19. It's 114 times. It's multiple of 19. And the number of chapters in the Quran, I'm giving you some very obvious, easy to check. 114. It is 6 times 19. The letters starting the chapters, the frequency of them in those chapters, multiple of 19. But it is an interlocking, a very interesting, simple to very complex system. Just one table, I took it to University of Arizona to in number theory, a professor. I didn't tell him this time. I got smarter. I didn't tell you this from the Quran, not to scare him. I said, look at this table, what do you see? He was very interested because it was very interesting. Initially, I thought it could be the property of numbers, a number property. No, he looked at it, he 25, 30 minutes, he spent time, he found formula. It is whole table and subtables, all of them following that formula. It is just, anyway, it's very interesting. The frequency of the words, letters, verses, chapters, and their interlocking system.
And one more time, the number 19 is mentioned only once in Quran, which is chapter 74, and was discovered by Rashad Khalifa in 1974. Okay.
And 19 times 74 years later.
Okay. And, great. There are two questions which are pretty close to each other. One is again by this guy, which is how do we get between violent parties without creating injustice? So the second one is, it is wonderful that you have identified all these sources of terrorism. So what is the solution? I combine these two into one. What's the solution to violence and terror? Do you see any solution? Would you like to go first, Mark?
I mean, I think some of what he's covering here is the root of how we're going to get at it, and it's going to take a lot of time to start breaking these back down and putting them back in a place where we value each other more than we value power and money. I mean, ultimately, I mean, it's sort of ironic that we're printing "In God We Trust" on our money because it's our money that we trust. And so we've got to break all of that down. I mean, it took a long time to get here. It's going to take a lot of people who have the same mindset that it has to be changed, who are willing to cross over lines and the divisions that the media, that politicians and everybody are trying to create, deciding that I'm going to step over those lines and I am going to mend these breaches that they're trying to falsely create.
May I mention this one? This is really solution. And you will say, what? Monotheism? Absolutely monotheism. I argue, I am a philosopher. And when I think about it, polytheism is the root of all these problems. Monotheism means what? There is only one God, our Creator. We are all created by that God, and that God has all the beautiful attributes. He or she or it, these are not kind of like us. Our language is limited. Therefore, that God is the truth itself. Therefore, we have to seek the truth. That God is justice, just itself. We have to seek justice. Socrates with Euthyphro had an argument. One of the arguments is about, is it good because God says so, or is it good therefore God says so? And both two answers is very different. If it is good because God says so, then God told Abraham, go kill your son, it is good, if God whatever tells us, correct? But the other way around, we'll have problem too. God becomes a subordinary of the good. If it is good, therefore God says so. It seems there is a problem. But I love Socrates, one of my heroes. But I think there is a problem in Socrates' question. It is not it is not a contradictory exclusive options. In fact, it is both. It is good, therefore God says so, and it is good because God says so. Because God good himself, itself. Therefore, monotheism means there is only one God, we are all equal, there is no intermediary between you and God. This is strict monotheism which is preached by the Quran, in fact by Jesus too, by Moses too, the first commandments. There is no priesthood as an intermediary intercessors between you and God, you don't need. Therefore, you are, as human, you are equal to anyone else, and you are not going to be manipulated. The moment you put between this high power, between that your eternal salvation, you delegate to another human being, you basically open the gate to be manipulated by that human or its affiliates or the king or the magicians. Therefore, a monotheist is the freest person. You are ultimate free. I am, as a monotheist, the freest person on earth, I claim. I am free. If you prove what I am believing right now wrong, absolutely I will trash it. Because I don't believe on conjecture. I don't believe in God the way the word believe is known. I know there is God. And I argue with the ardent, any atheist, with evidence. I know whatever I say, I must know. I cannot follow it with as much as evidence I can have. The moment you start believing a story about God without good reason, not good reason, in fact, with very good reason, you are in trouble. Because extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. We all tend go to the church or go to the mosque. We put half of our brain, even sometimes whole brain, by the door, and we go listen. Whatever they tell in the name of God. If they put some funny clothes on themselves and have some beard or in some countries different things, that's it. We are gone. Whatever they tell us, we accept. We disrespect God. This is the worst disrespect because they tell us contradictory nonsense, bunch of nonsense about God. We accept it. We say what? Today we say peace, but tomorrow they push one button because they control us. We basically put them in the position of God because they are the intermediary. They tell us what is the truth, what is the most important. And then there is one time they push the button, the good people, nice people become the worst people. There is an atheist American astrophysicist, I like his word. He says, there are good people and bad people. And it takes religion to turn a good person to become a bad person. I think it is half truth in terms of, it's not only religion, it is also ideologies or any dogmas. Dogmas is like viruses enter your brain, and then you can be manipulated, controlled through those viruses. It opens like through a horse. Anyway, where I was coming, the religious instruction of ISIS that follows, it is in the book, it has been in the book, in hadith books. The trouble of the Muslim world, let me write down this word. This is the trouble. Hadith means sayings attributed to Prophet Muhammad. Or sectarian jurisprudence, like Sunnah, Fatwa, they're called. But Hadith is the source of it. They fabricated 200 years, why I say 2 centuries after Prophet Muhammad. A lot of, like stoning to death, not in the Quran. Or veiling women, not in the Quran. Even headscarf is not in the Quran. Or killing apostate, not in the Quran. Freedom of expression, goodness sake, the Quran chapter 4, verse 140 says, if they are insulting, they are making mockery of your religion, your deen, leave their presence, say peace, and then when they come to their senses, they start continue decent argument, go continue argue, talk with them. It doesn't say kill them, beat them, bite them, none of them. Peaceful, leave them because they don't know what they're talking. This is what the Quran. But these people go crazy when you draw the picture of Muhammad, their idol. Have nothing to do with the Quran. Therefore, Hadith is the source of this problem, or fighting against this one. Or And they distorted also the meaning of some verses because of hadith. In the translation of the Quran, in the beginning, I give just few examples in detail how they distorted the meaning of keywords to create. For example, chopping the head has nothing to do in the Quran. It is not even about neck, but they all translate as the neck. The word neck is not there in the Quran. I show here is the word neck is mentioned. This word is used. This word, this very word that is used as a neck in other part of the Quran, always they translate as observation, control. Has nothing to do with that. Or a few more things. Anyway, there are so many mistranslations, and
we are almost out of time. So I'm gonna try to answer this question. I don't wanna leave this question without unanswered. Are markets human? Of course, markets are not human, but they act like human, right? Because we are oppressed by markets, we are enslaved by markets or market forces, right? And this consumerism is related to markets, so market acts like humans, but markets are not humanistic, right? They don't care about our well-being, etc., right? And the markets simply may force us into suicide, in fact. I'll ask you one more question before...
Can I add one maybe answer or suggestion to the, what was it, that one previously was... is there a solution?
What's the solution?
The solution. Well, you know, you can't leave without a solution, right? Okay. Good. We're in the last 2 minutes. Yeah. Well, I don't really have one, but one comes to my mind. Well, the problem behind this, it seems to me, is ultimately gets to all that we've been talking about here, is conflict, terror, and all that we've been discussing tonight is profitable. Yep. Right? That's a value system there that I think we have to change, certainly, and that goes to some of the things that...
Goes to Sanders.
Absolutely. But it seems to me one thing that's really important to consider as we're talking about things like intercultural competence, which is where I see an important starting point, whether it's realistic or just Pollyannish as an academic, as I tend to be on occasion. I think one of the most important things for us to do is to empathize. And with that idea comes to my mind, not the golden rule, right, but the platinum one. And you all know the platinum one, right? What is the platinum? Do unto others as they would have you do unto them. And I think maybe once we start approaching our interactions with other cultures in that regard, we might be a little bit closer to solving these big issues such as terrorism and war and conflict.
Yeah, thank you very much. My final remarks, I'm going to make them in a sec. Just one more point is that I have invited many people to make this panel possible to speak here, you know, but some of them asked money to come here, and one of them asked $45,000 to come and speak.
We have to say the name because I challenge those people because, yeah, it is, because they speak, they speak, they are very critical of these Muslims, which I am at the same time, but they are very silent about the atrocities committed by the West. And they make good money out of this. And they are, I don't think they are really, they contribute anything to this solution. And one of them was, who is the one? Ayan Hirsi. Ayan Ali Hirsi, if you hear me. We invited you here, you asked how many $1,000? Shame on you, I didn't ask a penny.
These three guys came here to speak pro bono. Finally, I would like to thank our co-sponsors, HHS Lauter Lecture Fund, International Global Studies, Roberta, and Department of Political Science, Department of Social Work, and of course, our Department of Peace and Conflict Studies. Thank you for coming. I hope to see you here again on another occasion. Have a good night. If you want to talk to Edip, I'll be here for at least 20-25 minutes.
What is Islam? What are the sources of Islam? What are the sources of Islam? What is Islam?
Burada sen ifşa oldun.
Nereye?
Gidiyorum.